Admiral Tarn of the Galactic Imperial Fleet stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The small human vessel, barely larger than a courier ship, had just effortlessly outmaneuvered his squadron's most advanced interceptors. "Impossible," he muttered, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he processed the data. "Run the sensor analysis again." His second-in-command, Commander Vex, nervously tapped commands into the console. "Analysis confirmed, sir. The human ship's energy signature is unlike anything in our database. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 cycles. In that time, they had cataloged, analyzed, and usually conquered every species and technology they encountered. Humans were supposed to be a minor species from an unremarkable world in the Orion Arm, barely space-capable by Imperial standards. Yet here they were, demonstrating technology that defied Imperial understanding. "Sir," Lieutenant Draz called, "from the communication station, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." The main view screen flickered to life. A human male with gray hair and weathered features appeared, wearing a simple blue uniform without the gaudy insignias Imperial officers favored. "This is Captain Thomas Miller of the Earthship Defiant," the human said calmly. "I believe you've been trying to intercept us for the past 3 hours. Perhaps we should talk instead." Admiral Tarn felt his scales bristle. The casual tone, the implicit mockery of the Empire's finest ships failing in their pursuit, it was intolerable. "Human," he snarled, "your vessel has violated Imperial space. Power down and prepare to be boarded or face destruction." Captain Miller's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Admiral. We're on a diplomatic mission to the Arcturus Conference with full clearance from your government." "Clearance?" Tarn barked a laugh. "The Empire doesn't grant clearance to lesser species. Your primitive ship would never have been approved to—" "Sir," Vex interrupted, her voice trembling. "Central Command confirms the humans' claim. They have diplomatic authorization at the highest level." Tarn's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Impossible. Who would authorize—" "The Emperor himself," Vex whispered. The bridge fell silent. Captain Miller waited patiently on the screen, his expression betraying nothing. "Very well," Tarn finally said. "But you will accept an escort to Arcturus." "Of course," Miller replied. "Though I should warn you, we tend to move rather quickly. Your ships might have trouble keeping up." Before Tarn could respond, the human ship accelerated, leaving a strange ripple in space-time that the Imperial sensors couldn't properly analyze. In seconds, it was at the edge of their detection range. "Follow them," Tarn ordered. As his ship strained to pursue, he turned to his intelligence officer. "Find out everything about this defiant and human ship technology. How did they build this? Where did they get such advanced tech? And most importantly, why is the Emperor granting them diplomatic status?" The intelligence officer, a veteran of 3 wars, looked unusually disturbed. "Sir, preliminary analysis suggests their propulsion system isn't based on any known principles. It's not gravitic, not quantum fold, not hyperspace. It's something else entirely." Tarn felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. In 10,000 years, the Empire had seen it all, or so they believed. But the humans had somehow developed something new, something the Empire's best scientists couldn't immediately understand. "Humans shouldn't have ships like this," he said, quietly. "Find out how they do, and why the Emperor knows about it when we don't." As the Imperial squadron struggled to match the human ship's casual speed, a disturbing thought occurred to Tarn. What if this wasn't the only surprise the humans had in store? The Arcturus Conference was the pinnacle of Imperial political theater. Held once every 50 cycles, it brought together representatives from across the Empire's vast territories, subjugated species permitted to voice concerns under the strict supervision of Imperial moderators. The Grand Hall of the Arcturus Prime Station gleamed with ostentatious displays of Imperial might. Massive holographic projections showed Imperial conquests. Display cases housed artifacts from 1,000 worlds. Guards in ceremonial armor lined the walls, a reminder of the Empire's military dominance. Ambassador Krell, the Emperor's voice at the conference, was finalizing his opening speech, when an aide rushed to his side. "Sir," the aide whispered urgently, "the human delegation has arrived." Krell blinked slowly. "Humans? I wasn't aware they warranted an invitation." "Special dispensation from the Emperor, sir, and there's something else. They arrived in a ship of unusual capabilities." "How unusual?" Krell asked, his interest piqued. "Admiral Tarn's report is concerning. The human vessel outperformed our most advanced ships without apparent effort." Krell's expression darkened. As one of the Emperor's inner circle, he knew about certain irregularities regarding humanity. The Emperor had taken an unusual interest in the species, ordering light monitoring rather than the standard subjugation protocol. "Very well," Krell said. "Where are they now?" "Docking Bay 12. A small delegation is headed this way." Minutes. Later, the doors to the Grand Hall slid open. 3 humans entered, 2 males and 1 female. The leader, the gray-haired Captain Miller, was flanked by a younger man with dark skin and a woman with copper-colored hair. The assembled delegates, representatives from hundreds of species, turned to stare. Humans were rare in Imperial space, and these 3 walked with an unnerving confidence that seemed out of place for a minor species. "Ambassador Krell," Miller called out, his voice carrying across the hall. "Thank you for accommodating our last-minute arrival." Krell approached, towering over the humans. "Captain Miller, your presence is unexpected. The Earth sector rarely participates in Imperial politics." "Times change," Miller replied. Earth felt it was time to join the conversation. The female human stepped forward. "Dr. Anna Reed, Chief Science Officer of the Defiant. We bring greetings from Earth's United Government." The younger man spoke next. "Lieutenant James Wilson, Diplomatic Liaison." Krell studied them with barely concealed suspicion. "And what does Earth hope to contribute to these proceedings?" Miller smiled. "Perspective, Ambassador, and perhaps some technological exchange." A murmur ran through the hall. Technology exchange was rare in the Empire. Typically, advanced technology was simply taken from conquered species, not traded. "I see," Krell said carefully. "And this remarkable ship of yours, the Defiant, would be part of this exchange?" "That depends," Miller said, his smile unchanging but his eyes hardening slightly. "The Defiant represents just one of humanity's recent innovations." Ambassador Krell was about to respond when an Imperial scientist rushed into the hall, making directly for him. The scientist whispered urgently in Krell's ear, and for a moment the ambassador's composure cracked. "Impossible," he hissed, loud enough for those nearby to hear. Miller raised an eyebrow. "Problem, Ambassador?" Krell straightened, regaining his diplomatic veneer. "Not at all. It seems our scientists are eager to discuss your vessel's capabilities." "I'm sure they are," Dr. Reed said. "But they might find some aspects difficult to comprehend without the proper theoretical framework." The implication was clear. The humans possessed scientific knowledge beyond Imperial understanding. In that moment, Krell realized why the Emperor had taken personal interest in these supposedly primitive beings. "The conference will begin shortly," Krell announced. "Captain Miller, your delegation will be granted observer status as per the Emperor's request." As Krell walked away, he tapped a discreet communication device. "Inform Imperial Intelligence. Priority Alpha. The humans are not what they seem." Admiral Tarn stood in the observation bay of the Arcturus station, watching as Imperial scientists swarmed around the Defiant. Despite their best efforts and most advanced equipment, they seemed unable to penetrate the ship's mysteries. "This material," the lead scientist was saying, gesturing to the hull. "It's unlike anything we've cataloged. It appears to be a metallic composite, but its molecular structure shifts when we try to analyze it." "Shifts?" Tarn asked sharply. "Yes, Admiral. As if the material itself is alive, in a sense, responding to our scans." "A living ship?" Tarn had heard legends of such vessels created by ancient species long before the Empire. But those were myths, surely. The scientist continued. "And the propulsion system defies our understanding. There's no conventional drive signature. Instead, we detect what appears to be localized space-time manipulation. What does that mean in practical terms? Tarn demanded. The scientist looked uncomfortable. It means, Admiral, that this ship doesn't so much move through space as reshape space around itself. Tarn felt a chill run down his spine. That's beyond even theoretical Imperial science. Yes, sir. By several centuries at least. Inside the conference hall, the political situation was growing equally tense. Captain Miller and his team sat quietly in the observer section, watching as species after species presented their grievances to the Imperial moderators. Most complaints were minor: requests for reduced taxation, pleas for assistance with natural disasters, appeals for greater autonomy. All were met with the same response: polite acknowledgement followed by minimal concessions. Notice how they structure the interactions, Lieutenant Wilson whispered to Miller. First, the minor races with small issues, then increasingly significant powers with larger concerns. Miller nodded. Classic divide and conquer. By the time any real challenges to Imperial authority come up, everyone else has already been appeased with trinkets. Dr. Reed was focused on her data pad. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the station, far more than would be needed for normal operations. Weapon systems? Miller asked quietly. Possibly, but also something else. There's a massive energy source at the station's core that doesn't match any known Imperial technology. Their conversation was interrupted when Ambassador Krell approached their section. Captain Miller, he said smoothly. The Emperor is most intrigued by your presence here. He has requested a private audience. Miller's expression remained neutral, but his posture tensed slightly. That's quite an honor, Ambassador. When would this audience take place? Immediately. The Emperor rarely waits. Miller glanced at Wilson, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. In that case, I would be delighted. May my colleagues accompany me? The invitation was extended to you alone, Captain, Krell replied. See? Then please lead the way. As Miller stood to follow Krell, he tapped a small device on his wrist twice, a prearranged signal to his crew. If he didn't check in within 2 hours, they were to execute Contingency Protocol Alpha. Meanwhile, in the docking bay, one of the Imperial scientists made a breakthrough that sent panic through the research team. Sir, she called to her supervisor, I've isolated a pattern in the ship's energy field. It's not just a propulsion system, it's generating a controlled quantum field that extends beyond our detection range. Meaning what? The supervisor asked. Meaning, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. This ship could be communicating with others like it, right now, and we'd never know. The supervisor immediately contacted Admiral Tarn with the new information. The Admiral's response was immediate. Lock down that ship, no one in or out, and find Captain Miller, now. Emperor Zaltek of the Galactic Empire was not what most species imagined. Rather than a towering figure of power, he was physically unimposing, a diminutive being with translucent skin that revealed pulsing organs beneath. Yet his eyes held the weight of millennia, cold and calculating. His private chamber aboard Arcturus Station was sparse, containing only a simple throne and advanced holographic interfaces. No guards were present. The Emperor's personal defenses were said to be built into his very being. Captain Thomas Miller of Earth, Ambassador Krell announced before quickly departing, leaving Miller alone with the Emperor. Approach, the Emperor said, his voice surprisingly melodious. Miller stepped forward, maintaining a respectful distance. Your Imperial Majesty, this is an unexpected honor. Is it? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. I think not. Your people engineered this meeting as carefully as you engineered that remarkable vessel. Miller didn't deny it. We believed direct communication would be more productive than working through intermediaries. Indeed. The Emperor gestured, and a holographic display sprang to life between them, showing Earth and its solar system. A lovely world, your Earth. Rich in resources, strategically positioned. Under normal circumstances, It would have been fully integrated into the Empire centuries ago. But you held back, Miller observed. Why? The Emperor's skin rippled, an expression Miller couldn't interpret. Curiosity, perhaps. Your species develops unusually. Most races follow predictable technological paths. Yours does not. He gestured again, and the display showed historical images of human development, from primitive tools to nuclear weapons to spaceflight, advancing at a pace that seemed almost impossible. In a mere 1,000 years, the Emperor continued, you progressed from stone tools to quantum theory. Most species take 5 times as long. Some never make certain intuitive leaps at all. We're adaptive, Miller said simply. You're anomalous, the Emperor corrected. And now this ship of yours, the Defiant, represents a technological leap that should have been beyond your capabilities for at least another century. Miller remained silent, neither confirming nor denying. I have a theory, Captain, the Emperor said, leaning forward. Your people have had help. Perhaps you found artifacts from the precursors, or maybe you captured technology from another advanced race we haven't encountered. Miller allowed himself a small smile. With respect, Your Majesty, we developed our technology ourselves. Humans have a knack for innovation. No species innovates this quickly, the Emperor insisted. It's not biologically possible. Unless, Miller suggested, your understanding of biological possibility is incomplete. The Emperor's eyes flashed dangerously. Careful, human. Your diplomatic status has limits. As does your empire, Miller replied calmly. For a moment, tension crackled in the air between them. Then the Emperor did something unexpected. He laughed, a sound like tinkling crystal. Bold, he said. Very bold. Now I begin to understand the reports about your kind. Tell me, Captain, what does Earth want from the Empire? Recognition, Miller said immediately. As equals, not subjects. Equals? The Emperor seemed genuinely amused. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. Your people have barely left your home system. That's not entirely accurate, Miller said. The Defiant isn't our only ship of its kind. Before the Emperor could respond, an urgent communication broke through even the chamber's secure protocols. Your Majesty, came Admiral Tarn's voice, we have a situation. Multiple unidentified vessels have just appeared in the Arcturus system. Their configuration matches the human ship's design, but they're larger, much larger. The Emperor's gaze never left Miller's face. How many vessels, Admiral? 7, Your Majesty, each approximately dreadnought class. They're holding position at the system's edge, but their weapons appear to be formidable. I see, the Emperor said softly. It seems, Captain, that your people have decided to provide emphasis to your diplomatic mission. Miller's expression remained neutral. They're merely an escort, Your Majesty. Standard procedure for diplomatic missions to potentially hostile territory. Hostile? The Emperor's voice was dangerously soft. The Empire has shown remarkable restraint regarding Earth. And we appreciate that restraint, Miller said. We hope it continues. Dr. Reed and Lieutenant Wilson were escorted, forcibly but politely, to a luxurious holding area within the station. Imperial guards stood at the doors, their weapons not quite pointed at the humans but clearly ready. This was expected, Wilson said quietly, checking his communicator. Captain Miller's meeting with the Emperor triggered the contingency. Reed nodded, discreetly activating a small device that would scramble any surveillance in the room. Fleets in position? 7 ships at system edge. The Empire's analysts will be losing their minds right about now. Reed smiled thinly. That's the idea. Keep them focused on the obvious threat while we proceed with the actual mission. Wilson glanced at his wrist display. 30 minutes until Phase 2. Think the captain will convince the Emperor? Doesn't matter, Reed replied. He just needs to keep him occupied. In the docking bay, the Imperial scientists continued their fruitless examination of the Defiant. No matter what instruments they used, certain aspects of the ship remained impenetrable mysteries. It's as if the ship is aware, one scientist muttered. Like it's deliberately hiding its secrets. His colleague scoffed. Ships aren't sentient. This is just technology beyond our understanding. Is there a difference at a certain point? The first scientist asked. Their philosophical debate was interrupted when every instrument in the bay suddenly went dead. The Defiant's hull began to emit a soft, pulsing light. What's happening? The lead researcher demanded. One of the junior scientists, his eyes wide, pointed at a display that was somehow still functioning. Something's coming through from subspace. A signal. Or... The Defiant's main hatch opened silently. The Imperial guards raised their weapons but hesitated when no one emerged. Instead, a soft voice emanated from the ship itself. Unauthorized. Examination detected. Defense protocols activated. In the Emperor's chamber, the conversation had grown increasingly tense. Your fleet movements could be considered an act of war, the Emperor said, his skin now pulsing with agitated bioluminescence. As could your attempts to dismantle our diplomatic vessel, Miller countered. My people came in peace but were not naive. The Emperor tapped his fingers on the throne's arm. What exactly does Earth hope to gain here, Captain? The Empire spans 1,000 worlds. Your planet, while charming, is but one. That's where you're mistaken, Miller said. Earth isn't seeking to join your empire or challenge its existence. We're announcing our presence as an independent power. The Emperor's laugh was cold. Independent? Within Imperial space? Impossible. Not impossible, Miller said. Just unprecedented. The region you call the Orion Arm isn't just Earth. We've established colonies on 17 worlds, formed alliances with 12 indigenous species. What you've considered an unremarkable region of space has become, quietly, a sovereign territory. The Emperor's expression darkened. Sovereignty exists only where power exists to maintain it. Precisely, Miller agreed. Hence our ships. Communication alert chimed and the Emperor gestured, bringing up a holographic display. Admiral Tarn's image appeared, his expression grave. Your Majesty, the human vessel in our dock has activated some kind of defense system. Our scientists are unable to approach it, and all their equipment has been rendered inoperable. The Emperor looked at Miller. Explain. Standard diplomatic protection, Miller said calmly. Your people were becoming a bit too invasive in their examination. And the fleet at the system's edge, the Emperor pressed. Insurance, Miller replied, but not a threat unless made necessary. The Emperor studied Miller for a long moment. You play a dangerous game, human. The Empire does not recognize rival powers within its territory. We're not asking for recognition of rivalry, Miller said. We're offering recognition of reality. The fact is, humans have developed technology that equals or exceeds Imperial capabilities in certain areas. We could fight, and such a war would be devastating for both sides. Or we can establish diplomatic relations. The Emperor's expression was unreadable. And if I choose war? Then you should know, Miller said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, that the 7 ships you can detect are not our entire fleet. They're merely the ones we wanted you to see. Admiral Tarn received the update with growing horror. Not only had the human ship in the docking bay activated some form of impenetrable shield, but the 7 massive vessels at the system's edge had now been joined by 12 more that seemed to have materialized from nowhere. How did we miss them? He demanded. His sensor officer looked shell-shocked. They weren't there, sir. Then they were. No hyperspace signature, no fold space distortion, they just appeared. Tarn's tactical mind raced through the implications. Either the humans had developed perfect cloaking technology, something the Empire had sought for millennia without success, or they possessed an entirely new method of faster-than-light travel that allowed them to arrive without detection. Either possibility was strategically terrifying. Status of our fleet? Tarn asked. Battle ready, Admiral. 32 capital ships, over 100 support vessels. We outnumber them, but we have no idea of their capabilities, Tarn finished grimly. Alert all commanders. Defensive. Positions only. No aggressive moves without direct Imperial authorization. In the holding area, Dr. Reed and Lieutenant Wilson monitored the situation through their secure communications. Phase 2 complete, Wilson reported. Additional fleet elements revealed. Reed nodded, checking her own device. The Defiant's defense systems are fully activated. They can't access any of her technology now. And the special package? Wilson asked. Reed smiled. Deployed and spreading throughout the station's systems. In about 10 minutes, we'll have access to the Empire's entire database. Wilson looked impressed. Quantum infiltration algorithms? Something better, Reed replied. Let's just say our AI systems have certain advantages over Imperial technology. Back in the Emperor's chamber, the atmosphere had changed. What had begun as a diplomatic meeting between unequal powers had transformed into something closer to negotiation between potential rivals. 19 ships, the Emperor said, studying the tactical display. Impressive, but still not enough to challenge the Empire's full might. We're well aware, Miller acknowledged, but this isn't about military confrontation. It's about establishing mutual respect. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Respect is earned, Captain. Indeed, Miller agreed, and we believe we've earned it, not just through military capability but through scientific advancement and cultural achievement. The Emperor made a dismissive gesture. Your culture is young, barely worth studying. Miller's expression hardened, slightly. Is that why Imperial anthropologists have secretly visited Earth for the past 3 centuries? Is that why your intelligence services have infiltrated our governments? Is that why your cultural databases contain more information about human art, literature, and philosophy than any other non-imperial species? For the first time, the Emperor seemed genuinely surprised. You knew? Of course we knew, Miller said. Did you think we wouldn't notice? We allowed it because we were curious about you too. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. What exactly are you proposing, Captain? A treaty, Miller said simply. Recognition of human space as sovereign territory, a non-aggression pact, trade agreements, cultural exchange, and in return, we share certain technological innovations, not our most advanced, but enough to be valuable. We open our worlds to limited Imperial presence, diplomatic, not military, and we guarantee that human expansion will not threaten Imperial core systems. The Emperor leaned back. An interesting proposal, but what prevents us from simply taking your technology once we understand how it works? Miller smiled thinly. 2 things. First, you'd have to understand it, which would be more difficult than you imagine. Second, there would be consequences that would make such a betrayal unprofitable. Before the Emperor could respond, another urgent communication came through. Your Majesty, Admiral Tarn reported, the station's central computer system is experiencing anomalies. Something is accessing our secure databases. The Emperor's gaze snapped to Miller. You're doing? A demonstration, Miller replied calmly. Of capabilities beyond ships and weapons. Rest assured no permanent damage will be done. The Emperor's expression darkened. This crosses a line, human? Does it? Miller asked. Or does it simply underscore the reality of our position? We could have launched a conventional attack. Instead, we chose a non-violent demonstration. The Emperor stared at Miller for a long, tense moment. Then, remarkably, he laughed. A genuine sound of amusement. You humans are either very brave or very foolish, he said. Perhaps both. Miller inclined his head. It's been said before. On the station's main concourse, representatives from across the Empire watched in stunned silence as the massive viewports showed a startling sight. The human fleet had reorganized into a formation that military strategists would recognize as both defensive and ceremonial, a sign of strength coupled with peaceful intent. Ambassador Krell moved through the crowd, trying to maintain calm while waiting for instructions from the Emperor. The absence of orders was itself telling. Never in his long career had Krell known the Emperor to be silent during a crisis. What are these humans? A delegate from a core Imperial world whispered to Krell. Yesterday we'd barely heard of them. Today they command ships that challenge our best. Krell had no satisfactory answer. The truth, that Imperial leadership had known about human potential for centuries and chosen to observe rather than conquer, would undermine confidence in the Empire. The lie, that this was a minor incident of no real concern, was belied by the fleet of advanced vessels visible to all. In the docking bay, the situation had reached an impasse. The Defiant remained sealed within its protective field, Imperial scientists and security forces unable to approach. Then, without warning, the field dropped. The ship's hatch opened, and a holographic figure appeared, a replica of Dr. Reed. "Your examination period has ended," the hologram announced. "Thank you for your interest in human technology. A formal technological exchange program will be established following diplomatic agreements." The Imperial scientists looked at each other in confusion. One brave soul stepped forward. What are you?" he asked. The hologram smiled. "I am an interface program for the Defiant. The ship's actual AI systems are considerably more sophisticated, but they prefer not to interact directly with non-authorized personnel." "The ship has AI?" the scientist gasped. "Of course," the hologram replied, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "All human vessels of this class do. How else would they function with such small crews?" In the holding area, the real Dr. Reed and Lieutenant Wilson received an encrypted message from Captain Miller. "Agreement in principle reached. Prepare for public announcement." Reed smiled. "He did it." Wilson nodded. "The Emperor's no fool. He can recognize an opportunity when he sees one. Or a threat he can't easily counter," Reed added. In the Emperor's chamber, the final details were being arranged. A formal document, the first treaty between the Empire and an independent power within its claimed territory in over 5,000 years, materialized on a holographic display. "The Treaty of Arcturus," the Emperor said, studying the text. "History will remember this day, Captain Miller." "For better or worse," Miller agreed. "You understand," the Emperor said, "that many within the Empire will resist this arrangement. The military certainly, some of the noble houses, perhaps even some of my advisors. And on Earth, there will be those who consider any agreement. With the Empire a mistake," Miller acknowledged. "Leadership requires courage to defy expectation when necessary." The Emperor's expression was unreadable. "Is that what you think this is? Courage?" "On both sides," Miller said. "The easy path would be conflict. The harder road is cooperation between different species, different cultures, different visions of the future." "Poetic," the Emperor observed, "but politics is rarely poetry." "Perhaps it should be," Miller suggested. "Both require vision and precision." As the treaty was finalized, Admiral Tarn received new orders. "Stand down, retrieve all research personnel from the human vessel, prepare for a joint announcement." He obeyed, but his concerns remained. "Humans shouldn't have ships like this," he muttered to his second-in-command. "It defies all logic." "Perhaps," Commander Vex replied. "Our logic was flawed." In the Grand Hall, the delegates fell silent as the Emperor entered, accompanied by Captain Miller. The sight of the diminutive Emperor walking side by side with the human, an implicit statement of equality, caused a ripple of shock. "Representatives of the Galactic Empire," the Emperor announced, his voice filling the hall. "Today marks a historic occasion. For the first time in 5,000 years, the Empire formally recognizes a sovereign power within what was previously considered imperial space." Gasps and murmurs filled the hall. "The human coalition of worlds," the Emperor continued, "has demonstrated both the technological capability and the diplomatic wisdom to be acknowledged as an equal partner in galactic affairs." As the Emperor spoke, screens throughout the hall displayed the human fleet, 19 vessels of advanced design, holding formation at a respectful distance from Imperial forces. "These ships," the Emperor said, gesturing to the screens, "represent not just military power but a scientific achievement worthy of respect. The Empire has always valued innovation. Now we welcome it from beyond our borders as well." "Captain," Miller stepped forward. On behalf of Earth and its colonies, I extend friendship to all peoples of the Empire. The stars are vast enough for many civilizations to flourish side by side. As the formal announcement continued, Dr. Reed and Lieutenant Wilson, now released from their holding area, joined Miller on the platform. The three humans, representatives of a world that yesterday had been considered primitive, now stood as equals before the assembled might of a 10,000-year-old empire. "The universe," Reed whispered to Wilson, "will never be the same." Wilson nodded. That was the plan all along. Behind them, on the massive screens, the human fleet executed a perfect synchronized maneuver, a traditional salute in the ancient naval tradition of Earth. The Imperial ships, after a moment's hesitation, returned the gesture. A new era had begun. The Empire was no longer alone among the stars, and humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage in a way no one would soon forget. "Humans shouldn't have ships like this," Admiral Tarn had said. But they did, and that changed everything.